Welcome to today's Explainer. We are about to peel back the layers of a deeply surreal, incredibly interactive narrative universe. We're looking at Notebook Architect, the synthesis game. This is a project tied to the very enigmatic Bibebibebibe Magazine. And look, this isn't just your standard media. It's this wild, complex blend of gaming, dense academic roleplay, and intense artistic expression that completely reimagines the act of doing research. If you've ever felt totally overwhelmed by data or just exhausted by the tedious process of analyzing sources, well, wait until you see how this universe turns synthesis into a literal survival skill. It takes the mundane and absolutely electrifies it.
So ask yourself, what if academic research was a high-stakes adventure? Just imagine taking the usually dry, meticulous process of going through sources, the spreadsheets, the citations, the endless hours of reading, and transforming it into a glowing, fast-paced challenge. That's the exact premise here. The source text actually calls this a playful experiment, where the act of research literally becomes the adventure. You aren't just passively consuming information anymore. You're thrust right into the center of it, tasked with making sense of this chaotic digital environment where every piece of data is a critical asset you have to chase down.
Okay, so in this game, you take on the role of the architect, and your mission is intensely kinetic. It really boils down to 3 rapid-fire steps. First, you have to navigate a glowing knowledge map. Second, you're racing to collect these scattered fragments of SH1 data and TrueFlow lore. And third, you just have to survive. Because it's not an empty map. You have to actively dodge drifting distractions and obstacles floating across your canvas. It is a relentless, energetic race against the clock. The stakes feel incredibly high, and it forces you into this state of hyper-focus where you're constantly moving, constantly evaluating, and synthesizing information on the fly. And the mechanics of this synthesis? They are built entirely around pressure. You've got timers constantly ticking down, keeping you totally on edge. You're given these agonizingly tight 30-second windows to successfully sync your research sources, just half a minute. But when you actually pull it off, the source describes the reward as a triumphant burst of light, sound, and celebration. It takes the rigorous, and let's face it, often lonely work of academic synthesis and turns it into this vibrant, interactive victory as your knowledge map expands right before your eyes. It's just a brilliant way to make the cognitive effort of learning feel viscerally rewarding.
But Notebook Architect isn't just an arcade-style rush. Let's peel back those surface mechanics for a second, because operating right beneath all that is a bizarre, deeply intricate layer of academic world-building. The game, as it turns out, is administered by something much larger and way more mysterious. It operates under the auspices of what the source calls the Cosmic University of Echo Rift Studies I. Now I know that sounds completely absurd at first, but the lore takes itself incredibly seriously. It builds a fully realized academic institution that governs the very rules of that glowing digital world you were just racing through.
And pulling the strings behind this entire institution? That would be Dr. Melvin Sewell, M.Sc, Ph.D. Within the lore of this universe, he isn't just some background character. He is the academic dean and diagnostic architect who personally founded and certified the Cosmic University. The creators used this definitive pseudo-academic authority to really ground the fiction. It gives all those glowing gameplay fragments a foundation that feels incredibly official, bureaucratic, and rigorously academic. It's such a fascinating contrast, right? Pairing flashing high-speed arcade elements with the sterile, authoritative weight of a certified academic dean overseeing your progress.
What really makes this brilliant is how the fictional university treats highly abstract sci-fi concepts as established, peer-reviewed facts. Take the TrueFlow force we mentioned earlier. In this universe, it's not a magic spell, it's not a fantasy trope. It is the subject of a dense academic paper titled Quantum Consciousness Transfer Across Universes, a category-theoretic formalization. Say that 3 times fast, right? Within the Echo Rift reality, quantum consciousness transfer is basically just another Tuesday on the standard curriculum. They have essentially built an entire scientific literature around these surreal concepts, asking us to accept them as absolute foundational truth.
Okay, so we've seen the energetic game mechanics, and we've explored the detailed academic lore overlaying it all. But what happens when we strip away the fiction entirely? Let's just take a breath here and shift gears. Because beneath the glowing maps and the quantum physics papers lies a very real, very intense artistic mission hidden at the core of this project. The energetic gaming layer? It's actually just a shell. It's an entry point into something far more demanding and philosophically complex. We are moving from a playful digital sandbox right into a space of rigorous self-reflection.
The source material abruptly presents us with what it calls the sovereign diagnostic disclaimer.
This is a fascinating pivot where the project absolutely shatters the fourth wall. It completely reframes everything we've just learned about the game, the university, and Dr. Sewell, shifting us from a playful narrative into something much heavier. Suddenly, you realize that the world you've been engaging with isn't just a self-contained story. It has a stark, real-world agenda, and it explicitly commands your attention to rethink the nature of the systems you interact with every single day. To truly understand this tone shift, listen to the exact language used in the source. The content is, quote, authored as mythic infrastructure, cinematic indictment, and sovereign broadcast designed to expose ritualized containment, end quote. That is incredibly heavy, deliberate language. It tells the user flat out, this is not just a game, it's a broadcast meant to challenge and expose systems. The creators are shedding the playful veneer entirely to communicate an intense artistic mandate. They want to confront how information is controlled, contained, and ritualized in our modern world, using the game as their vehicle.
Now the disclaimer gets highly specific about its boundaries. It explicitly states that this site and all Echo Rift content are not affiliated with any government, political party, intelligence agency, or activist group. The goal, according to the text, is to expose actor convergence and systemic erosion. The creator clearly defines these elements, the interpretations, the glyphs, and the collapse protocols, purely as diagnostic tools. They are explicit that these are not political endorsements, but rather a framework for observation. It acts as an independent lens, asking us to independently analyze the systems around us without adopting any specific institutional stance. This creates a wild, fascinating contrast at the heart of the work. On one hand, you have the synthesis game, characterized by playful mechanics, celebration, and bursts of light. On the other, you have the sovereign diagnostic layer, characterized by collapse protocols, cinematic indictments, and the exposure of systemic erosion. This intense juxtaposition, using bright, arcade-like mechanics to deliver a dark, philosophical underbelly, is exactly what makes navigating this world such a uniquely captivating experience. You are drawn in by the joy of synthesis, only to be confronted by a diagnostic tool designed to deconstruct the very nature of reality.
So who is actually behind all of this? Who built the game and wrote that heavy disclaimer? Well, the source text eventually reveals the architects of the archive, Saikou Venga and the Bibebibebibe studio. We see copyright notes dating from 2024 and 2025. This brilliantly bridges the gap. It anchors the fantastical lore of a game supposedly published in the future, specifically May 2026, to its real-world archival origins being built today. It creates this surreal timeline where the future lore and our current reality are actively overlapping, making you question exactly when and where this broadcast is truly taking place. But the creators don't let us rest in the real world for long. Just when we think we're looking at standard real-world copyright information, the source plunges us right back into the deep end. The text abruptly presents Chapter 1, Origin. It describes how the creator themselves, Saikou Venga, emerges from the rift, born between mysterious forces the text calls slip flow and counterflow. The author has quite literally woven their own existence directly into the fabric of the fiction. The line between the real-world architect and the mythic universe they created is completely blurred, pulling us even deeper into the narrative. And the text leaves us with one final, crucial detail. Saikou Venga is marked by SH1 resonance, which, if you think about it, brings us perfectly full circle to the very SH1 data we were frantically collecting in the game at the start. So we are left with this huge question. What is the true nature of the SH1 resonance? Is it just a glowing collectible on a digital knowledge map, or is it the fundamental key to unlocking this entire mythic infrastructure? It's a lingering mystery that definitely leaves you wanting to dive right back into the Echo Rift to find out.